Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bonnie.Corban and this is my entry into the first ever Australian and New Zealand NYX Face Awards. I have waited what feels like a lifetime to enter this competition and I'm going to give it my absolute all. I hope everybody watching today enjoys this video. If you'd like to learn how to do this look, then please keep on watching. The first thing I'm doing is applying some large black contact lenses, and that's going to make you go from zero to a demon real quick. It makes all the difference in my opinion, so that's why I love wearing them. I'm then going to apply a latex bold cap to make sure that I don't have any hair, just to make this extra creepy. I'm applying that on my head and then smoothing my hair down and tucking the rest up into the back of the cap. Using some small scissors, I'm going to very carefully cut around my ears because we will need them in this look today. And then I'm taking some bobby pins and securing the back in place to get it nice and flat and smooth. I am doing this on myself today, so that is my quick fix method. I'm wearing a wig as well, so it won't be visible, but if you have a friend at home, it would be really good if they could help you glue it down and make it look a little bit more tidied. To glue the front down, I'm just going around the edges of my face with some liquid latex and then really gently pulling and pressing down on the front of the bold cap to get a smooth and perfect edge. You will then need to blend that down into the face. I didn't stress too much about this step because we are applying so much on top later. This is just going to lightly hold everything down. Also, I'm sure that you are all aware, but I will mention it just for safety anyways. Please don't apply liquid latex anywhere in your hair, near your eyes or anything like that. I'm being very cautious of my eyebrows, but now I'm moving on to blocking them. So I'm using a washable glue stick, which is non-toxic. I'm running that through my brow and then brushing the hairs upwards to get them nice and flat to the face. I then went over with about another 6 or 7 layers of glue just to make sure they were completely covered and safe. I ran around the edges one more time to make sure everything was sealed, and then I wanted to try my teeth on camera. So I made these out of polymorph plastic, and I will have a separate tutorial on my channel. I didn't want to put it in this video because I didn't want this to be too long. For me, this video is all about makeup application, but I will have a separate DIY on how to make the horns, the teeth and other props as well. Lots of behind the scenes stuff will be happening on my channel during the NYX Face Awards. So what I'm doing now is just lining up where I want the horns to go. I'm then going to take my NYX Jumbo Pencil in Milk and lightly map around the edges exactly where I want them to be stuck down. As you can see, mine are quite far back. I wanted them to be very large and very dramatic and obviously very demonic. If you wanted to recreate this look at home, you definitely don't have to apply a bold cap. You could just easily make the horns a little bit smaller and stick them down directly to your forehead, which will skip you a lot of steps and save you a lot of time. I did wear a wig, but I also had the intentions of doing a few shots with this bold, so that's why I went to the extra effort. Now, to hold the horns down in place, the best method that I found was to have some sort of a pocket to hold them in place. They are very lightweight because they're made out of foil, but the best thing I found was getting little pieces of cotton wool, applying that around in a circle and then blending that down into the skin. Once that is dry, it's going to give lots of stability and it should hold everything nice and tight and in place. To speed up the drying time, I'm using a hairdryer set to cold. If you were to use it on warm or hot while wearing a bold cap, you could get all sweaty and start to really disturb and mess things up under there, so I don't recommend doing that. Cold is always the best way to go. I'm then going to start pulling the latex from the center of the circle out to make sure that we have nice little pockets to really fit our horns into. Once I'm happy that they're nice and even, I'm going to place the horns on the inside, and if you've done it small enough, they should sit perfectly, but mine were a little bit dodgy, so I'm going in with some more liquid latex and starting to stick them down. You will need to heavily blend these down into the skin. These are big horns, so they were hard to stick onto the face. I'm taking plenty of that cotton wool and liquid latex and starting to apply that around the base of the horns, bringing that up about ½ inch and then blow drying it in between. This is a bit of a process and definitely difficult if you are doing it alone, but again, I've kind of just gotten used to it. So once I've got the first horn on, it was so much easier to get the second one. Make sure that they're nice and straight and symmetrical, and you're pretty much good to go. There's going to be lots of layering and lots of textures in this look today, so don't stress about edges or anything like that. Now moving on to the cheekbones, again I'm taking liquid latex and applying that on the highest parts of my cheekbones and applying some cotton wool. I'm bringing that all the way up to the base of the horns and starting to blend that out and saturate it. You can use your hands to sculpt it as well, just pinching it and smoothing it down. Now, I was originally going to sculpt this onto my face cast and make a proper prosthetic using a molding process, but then I thought that's not very practical for the majority of us at home. We all love our cotton wool and latex, it is the quickest and easiest method, and with a look like this one that is so textured and blemished, there's no reason to really try to make it refined and go to all of that extra effort. As you can see here, I'm just gently smoothing it out with my skin and then relayering and reapplying more textures back into the look anyways. You can build this up as much or as little as you want. I wanted to mainly focus on the brow bone area to make it look nice and angry. The more that you build this up, the more your eyes will look deep set and sunken in, which is going to give you a really creepy demonic look as well. I tried to make my brow bone quite narrow but really leave the rest of my nose blank. You can apply this all over your face if you like. You can sculpt anything that you want. I wanted mine to just mainly be like a headpiece, almost as if this was a mask. I then just sculpted the rest of the nose and then lightly blended the cheekbones down into the skin. The paint job that we're doing today is very speckled and very forgiving, so it's going to blend away a lot of the edges quite naturally. Making sure that is all completely dry before I move on to the painting process. In this video I'm just using a water activated body paint. The less water that you use, the more creamy and opaque the consistency will be, and that's going to give you a more pigmented look. If you apply a little bit too much water, it can start to become quite patchy and streaky. I thought I would just mention that so you guys can keep it in mind in case you are working with water-based paints and you're not familiar with them. Of course, you're going to need to get that all up in your ears as well, and try your best to paint all around the rest of your face and your horns. I left the top of my head because I was going to wear a wig, but I ended up painting it later on. I'm then going to take the white eyeshadow base from NYX and apply that all over my lid area and underneath my lower lashes. That's going to act as a primer today. It's pretty much like the jumbo pencil, except it's in a little pot form. Then I'm just going to set that with a white eyeshadow to make sure everything blends seamlessly on top. Moving on to lips, I'm taking the mini liquid Suede in the shade Alien, and that is a beautiful jet black. Making sure that I apply that with a lip brush to get everything nice and precise and kind of overlined as well. To replace the concealer method, I'm using more of that white body paint to just carve out the bottom lip and make them very defined. I went a bit drag with these and made them quite large, but it looked proportioned because everything else is a little bit crazy. For shading today, I'm using the NYX Primal colours in the shade Hot Black. This is just a matte black eyeshadow. I'm going to use that to contour today. On a small fluffy brush, I'm applying that underneath my cheekbones that I've made, bringing that down towards the side of my mouth in a very skeletal manner, just to make everything look sunken in and evil. I'm then going to roughly blend that across the sides of my prosthetic and my brow bone, contouring the nose and also the tip of the nose as well. This is the beginning of the layering and the texturing process, so I'm buffing that heavily around the base of both horns, and then with whatever I have left over on my brush, I'm lightly chiseling out the sides of my face and bringing that up towards the center of my chin to change the shape a little bit as well. I found the best method of blending this away was using a combination of my sponge and my paintbrush with a tiny bit of that water activated paint in the white color. That's going to give you a really nice soft gradient. If you were to keep blending harshly away with your fluffy brush, that's going to start to disturb and pick up the paint. So I'm running over the edges lightly and then going back in lightly again and layering more of that black shadow. I did this a few times all over the face until I got the smokiness that I was after. To add some bright purples into the look, I'm taking the NYX Primal colours in the shade Hot Fuchsia and starting to apply that along my lower lash line in a very cat-eyed shape, and then cleaning it up and defining it with that body paint. Once we have the shape down, I'm going in with the liquid Suede in the shade Jet Set. This is a bright purple blue, and I'm starting to buff that along my lower lash line, and then with a brush, using that to lightly blend the two colours together. It gave the perfect purple under the eyes and I was very happy with it. I also went back in with that same hot fuchsia colour and started to apply this all over the face into the contour areas. I started to really messily buff that around the sides of the face, bringing that up on top of the brow bone as well to have that colour peeking through. To begin the purple layering process, the first thing I did was take that fuchsia eyeshadow and start to buff that into the black shadow around the base of our horns. That's going to give us a nice custom and textured colour. I'm also going to lightly apply that just underneath where my contour is to blend it down into the face. And on a smaller brush, I'm applying that on the highest points of my cheekbones as well. You could leave this area completely white and I feel like it would still look great, but I wanted to even out the whole face, so I lightly buffed that into the tops of the cheekbones and then went back in with my NYX Liquid Suede in the shade Jet Set and applied that towards the center of my lips to give myself a soft ombre effect. Using a mixture of that liquid lip and the fuchsia eyeshadow, I applied that on an angled brush and started to create a winged liner. I didn't go any further than the center of my lid and then used a fluffy brush to start to give it a really blended and ombre effect. I wanted there to be little to no product on the inner corner of my lids to give it a real soft look and then very harsh on the outer corners. To finish off my ombre lips, I took another Suede. This is in the shade Suede Emprise and I gently patted that towards the center of my lips only to really brighten it up and finish them off. I then went back in with Jet Set and applied that all over my cheekbone area and started to lightly freckle and speckle that all around the base of my horns. I blended that away with my fluffy brush. The Liquid Suede formula is a cream lipstick, so it doesn't completely set and dry. It gives it a nice working time and it's also nice and pigmented as if it was a liquid lipstick. So as you can see here, I'm using it as eyeliner. I'm packing it on the areas where we previously did our wing. I'm just making it a lot bigger and a lot darker. I still wanted the wing to be nice and defined, but have that real soft ombre effect on the center of the lid and no product on the inner corner. To add a little bit of creepiness back into the look, I'm taking a really fluffy brush and lightly dabbing and packing on some black shadow to make it look a little bit more undone and messy. So now it is time for my favorite part of the tutorial. I'm taking my NYX white liner and starting to apply my little freckles everywhere all over the look. I'm starting by applying small little clusters on the areas where I've applied all of my purple and lightly bringing that up onto the horns as well. I really loved how cute this made the look, even though it was supposed to be a scary demon. This just really brought out all of those purples. It really made everything look a lot more textured, but in the best way possible. I then also applied some thin white liner and continued to do the freckles on the sides of my nose and also on the bottom of my lips as well. To make my lower lash line look cuter, I popped on some individual lashes and did some little white dots. I then went ahead with my NYX white eyeliner and painted a pair of my favorite lashes. I love this because you can make any lash white and they look super epic, so I let them dry and set them aside. I then took my NYX jumbo pencil in Black Bean and tightlined my top waterline and started to top up my nose contour and brow bone contour. So as you can see here, I'm just applying it directly underneath the prosthetic and then blending that out with a brush. I feel like it almost looked like eyebrows and it ended up being really cool and giving a really good contrast. Now I'm not sure if demons regularly wear highlight, but I'm definitely going to. I'm taking my Strobe of Genius palette and the purple and champagne colour, mixing them two together and really intensely highlighting the tip of my nose. I also lightly packed that on the centre of my lips just to make them even more ombre than they already are. Next we're moving on to the body. You can do anything you like for this. I'm taking the same liquid suede that I used previously on the face and starting to carve out my collarbone. I layered the two different purples together and then started to buff that around my chest. I also brought that down my neck as well just to apply more colour and give it a little bit more of a skeletal and creepy look. Once I blended and buffed that all in, I took my pure black eyeshadow and started to really buff that in as well to get it nice and grungy. Now I did want the main focus to be on the face, so I did take my white body paint and lightly run that over the top just to make everything a little bit dull and more smoky as if it was out of focus. I then finished it off with some white dots and painted my hand with my jumbo pencil and some purple eyeshadow. But that is it guys, that is my entry into the NYX Face Awards. You can rock this super creepy and bold, or you can pop on a really cool wig. I tried to make this video a representation of what I think NYX is as a brand with my own style. So I made it creepy, I went with what was trending, white liner, lashes, freckles and the lot. I really hope you enjoyed, and to everybody at NYX out there, I hope I get into the top 30. If you want to see some behind the scenes stuff on how this video was made, I'll leave some cool videos linked in the description box below. Again, I thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.